of the Fight Guys, and I'm also a Forbes contributor. And I'm here with my friend, fellow Fight Guy, and Forbes contributor Peter Kahn. What's going on today, Pete?
What's up, Brian? Everything's good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Feeling good. I lost 10 pounds
I
in the
know you're looking
last.
good.
Yeah, I'm trying, man. I'm trying to get it. I'm not really like doing full out like keto per se, but I'm cutting out most of the carbs that are included in that concept. And I'm also doing the intermittent fasting. So I don't eat until I actually probably doing a little bit more than most.
Right.
I don't eat a meal until 6 o'clock. And I'm working out like literally like 7 days a week, but I'm not doing a rigorous thing all
Like
day,
you're
every
playing
day.
basketball,
Yeah, playing
get
basketball Monday,
some
Wednesday,
cardio.
Friday. Yeah, Monday, Wednesday, Friday basketball. Tuesday, Thursday, I hit the heavy bag and
Right.
walk on the treadmill. Saturday, I probably do the same thing. And Sunday, I just do a leisure walk on the treadmill just to kind of get the blood pumping a little bit, but not doing anything too rigorous, especially on the lower extremities.
Didn't I see you and the wife doing like some stairs somewhere?
Yeah, and in South suburban Chicago,
Right.
there's a spot called Swallow Cliff, and it is like I think it's 136 uneven stairs,
Hmm.
and it's once you get high up in altitude, like
Yeah.
you start really feeling the thinness
Yeah.
in the breath.
Plus,
So
people that haven't met you that don't know, I mean, you're 6'5".
yeah,
So that's
I'm a big guy. So
you're
yeah,
not as lower center of gravity on those stairs.
yeah, man, and I gotta hold on, but my son was irritating me because he's running up and down the steps. I'm like, boy, I'd trip you.
So listen, man, today was like a real hello, how you been? Because I mean, it's a little strange, but we haven't spoken
Probably about
like
two,
like
3 days.
like yeah, like normally, just so you guys know, it's like, hey, how are we talk like 10 times a day.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then we're not talking, we're like on instant messenger, right? On
Right,
Hangouts.
right,
So,
right.
but this was like a real, hey, how you doing?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Just we've been busy.
Yeah, we both have been very busy. And not all the busyness has been around combat sports. There's a lot of stuff going on, period, and all kinds of things that I
Mhm.
cover and whatever. But we did have what I felt, man, was a pretty interesting fight with Kovalev and Yard over the weekend. I thought it
Right.
told quite a few stories. I know you live blogged it. I
Mhm.
hit up a results piece right afterwards, and you and I were talking during the fight, like in between rounds.
Right.
I saw the live blog, but for anybody that didn't see it, kind of give what you think. Like, what was your assessment of Kovalev Yard?
I mean, you and I saw it pretty much the same except for one round. There was
Hmm.
one round that you gave to Yard kind of in the early going
Yeah.
that I didn't give to him, but then
Hmm.
there was no doubt that and I don't have it in front of me, but I would guess to say maybe it was the 5th or 6th and 7th where he where he really kind of stepped it up
Yeah.
and then he gave it back away, just kind of
Hmm.
ran out of gas. The way I saw it was I saw a very methodical uh Sergey Kovalev, a
Hmm.
very stick to the game plan of showing the commitment and the patience to
Yeah.
work behind his jab, to not expend a lot of energy, to not be impatient. Um, he was the fighter that was coming forward.
Yes.
I think his experience was able to let him know that Yard was trying to use some speed and it just reminded me of Broner in a way where he just kept trying to catch him on this counter hook or lead left hook
Mm, mm,
that didn't seem to be working,
mm,
and he didn't really revert to any other strategy.
mhm.
Um, and Kovalev just seemed to be methodical, throwing his jab, trying to go around the guard with the right hand, tapping him to the body, tapping him to the chest, tapping him on the arms. Moving but not expending a ton of energy.
Mhm.
There were some moments in the middle rounds where Yard seemed to almost have Kovalev in trouble,
Yeah.
and consistent with what we spoke about, which was, is Kovalev susceptible to falling apart down the stretch like he did against Ward, like he did against Alvarez? Could that happen? And I think, like you said to me in the messages, that's all Buddy. That's all
Yeah.
Buddy.
All
And
buddy.
and what you meant, Buddy kind of bringing him, reeling him back in, and interestingly enough, you thought maybe there was a little bit of a Dadashev effect on Buddy, who was basically telling Kovalev if he doesn't step it up and start doing what he says, in so many words, that he's going to stop this fight.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And so Kovalev really was just patient. He didn't seem to be rattled. He
Hmm.
didn't seem to be fatigued. Yard, on the other hand, seemed to at some point just hit the wall to the point where he got knocked out with a jab. So,
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
it wasn't even a power jab.
he was exhausted.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I see that, in my pre-fight write-up, I said at the end of the day, I see it going to decision for
Hmm.
Kovalev. I said, but the one question mark would be, will Kovalev be able to bring Yard into deep waters and drown him? And then that's what he did.
Yeah, yeah. I think we, like you said, we saw it pretty much the same. The only round I think that we differed was that I gave Yard the first round.
Right.
The other two rounds that I gave him was the seventh and the eighth. The eighth round is when he had
Those were
Kovalev.
obvious rounds.
Yeah, he had Kovalev like in trouble.
Right.
But the problem was if energy was a liquid in a cup in
Yeah.
the eighth round, he literally poured it all out because from the ninth round on, he was absolutely done,
Look,
absolutely out on his feet.
look, Yard, not that anyone needed to lay the blueprint,
Hmm.
and I might be getting ahead of myself on this, so I'm not going to get too deep into it. But
Hmm.
let's just say that Yard's body work
Hmm.
opened the door for anyone that Kovalev might fight in the future. I'd,
Yeah.
I'd start to that body in round one.
Yeah. Well, I would make the argument that Andre Ward started that blueprint because he's the one who really instituted that body work on Kovalev. And if you remember the second fight when he stopped him with body shots.
You
And
mean the low blow?
yeah, well, one of them was low.
So
One
that's
of them,
that
one
was,
of them was legit low.
yeah, but
And we're actually going to talk about Ward a little bit in a second. But what one of them was legit low. And but like if you heard Ward, I don't know if you could hear Ward in the commentary.
yeah.
He was saying that he said Kovalev does not like it to the body.
Oh yeah,
Does
he
not like it to the
clearly
body.
said it. Clearly said that.
Yeah, and the weird thing, I actually saw this, but I hadn't formulated it as an actual thought or concept. But I see it. Ward made a very interesting comment about Kovalev. He says Kovalev is a strong puncher, but he's not strong,
Hmm.
and I totally understand that because some guys can crack and hit, but if you're in a wrestling match with them, you
Different.
move them around as
Mhm.
you want.
Right.
And Ward, because he fights that style anyway, or he fought that style anyway, he found a lot of success with Kovalev in that way. He really bullied the bully, but he
Hmm.
bullied him with more infighting tactics than staying on the outside and on the end of that jab. And like you said, Yard, when he dropped that ridiculous Philly shell that he was trying to emulate and put both hands up and barreled in and threw left hooks to the body and pushed Kovalev around, he had more success. The only problem is, like you said, I would start that in round one.
Right.
He didn't start it to the end of round seven. And by that time, the gas tank was just about empty. So
Well,
yeah, it.
to Ward's point, I get what he says because I see it firsthand. I see it in the gym. I see it during fights. I see that the most dangerous punchers, besides the ones that are naturally gifted with heavy hands, are the guys that have speed and accuracy.
Hmm.
And speed and accuracy and proper technique
Hmm.
can make up for what is considered, just raw strength. Yeah, and you're right. Towards point as well, raw strength can help when you're walking a guy around the ring, when
Hmm.
you're in the clinch, when you're leaning on him. That type of strength could be tiring, right?
Yeah.
But punching power is how you sit down, how you turn it over, the accuracy in which you land the punch, where you place the punch, and that's what creates that power punch.
Yeah, and we were talking about Buddy, and I was mentioning this to you while the fight was on. I was like, "This is all Buddy. This
Yeah.
is all Buddy." The jab work, just staying smart, staying tall, using his advantages on the outside. And Buddy would tell him, even if he had any portion of the round where he wasn't, Kovalev didn't maybe dominate the way he should have. If you heard Buddy in the corner, he was giving him. I mean, Buddy's really the best thing to happen to Kovalev from a professional standpoint, maybe ever right now because he's helping him so much. But you alluded to something about pretty much what I was telling you. We were both agreed on this when we were watching the fight. We were like, I think that the Maxim Dadashev situation is kind of creeping in. And obviously we couldn't hear Buddy, but I think we got some confirmation of that. And I'm going to show something, a tweet from Lance Pugmire. Lance says, literally stopped me in my tracks when Buddy McGirt said he thought, and quote, don't let the Max thing interfere with this, end quote, during the grueling 8th round of Kovalev, which set up the break between rounds he labeled, quote, the quote unquote, the longest minute of my life. Now, that, so here's what I thought originally, right? My thought was, Buddy has made up in his mind that if it's anything within his power, he's never going to let that happen to another fighter on his watch ever again. And I said, well, maybe right now he might be overreacting a little bit because did Kovalev look like he had a bad round? Yes. But did he look like he was in danger of truly being hurt? No. But then again, I'm not the guy in the corner. And I'm not the guy who spends the time and who had to go through what he had to go through with Dadashev. Then the other side of it made me think, is Buddy using this as a way to pump his fighter up, which is something that trainers have done forever? You know, dude, you got to show me something this round. If it's not, I'm throwing in the towel. I said, or maybe I said it's somewhere in the middle. But either way, from that moment on, a combination of Kovalev flipping whatever switch he had left to flip and Yarde completely gassing, Kovalev dominated the fight from that moment on.
Well, I agree with you, and I think that Yarde went, he went for broke.
Yeah.
And I think that being that he'd never been past seven rounds, that could also mentally play a part in a fighter's output moving forward. I mean, there's that question mark: do I have enough in the tank to go 12?
Yes.
I've never been past 7. The other thing is, I'm going to see Buddy tomorrow in the gym here in Florida, and I'm going to ask him.
Yeah,
I'm going to ask him what was going through your mind.
Absolutely, for
and
sure.
I'll report back. Actually, I'm going to do some video with him, so I'm going to ask him on video.
Oh, great.
So if you're watching, you're going to have to look out tomorrow afternoon, and you're going to see a video with Buddy, and we're going to ask him all these questions about that fight, and also what's next for Kovalev.
Yeah, and also, if you're watching as well, I know a few people are in. I want to give an acknowledgement, a shout out to somebody who's come over from my gaming exploits. For anybody that doesn't know, I'm a huge gamer. Sean Singletary is in the chat. What's going on, Sean? Sim Nation goes everywhere, all over the place. So I appreciate you coming through. But
I appreciate you coming through.
Yes, my man Peter. PK is an appreciative person. So really say that fast 5 times. PK is an appreciative. Don't do it. Don't do it. Yes. Don't do it. But yeah, man, it was I actually thought that I found myself really entertained by the fight. I'm like, this is actually a pretty good fight. Because here's the fights that I love, right? A fight doesn't have to be two of the most skilled, fundamentally sound guys to be an entertaining fight. As a matter of fact, oftentimes those elements make for a boring fight because guys are so good at what they do and it's so calculated that nobody takes a risk because mentally they're like, if I take this risk, it makes good sense for them not to. But when there's a mixture of a guy who is physically talented, has heart, but maybe has a few flaws against a guy who is maybe more fundamentally sound, but not as gifted physically, sometimes those make for the greatest fights. And I think that's kind of what we had with Kovalev Yarde. Yarde's absolutely a better athlete than Kovalev. First 2 or 3 rounds, his hands were faster and you could see it.
But Kovalev, to me, was clearly the more experienced,
absolutely,
and better boxer,
better fighter.
People underestimate how important the ability to manage distance is. It could be the most important factor in a fight.
Yes,
which is understanding how to manage that distance and use it to your advantage. Kovalev has a radar, and at this stage of the game and his age, that experience and radar of knowing how to effectively use his jab to win rounds and not get hurt is truly
it's invaluable.
It's invaluable, and it's really what got him this win.
Buddy, who I think is who reminded him of that,
Mhm.
and reminded him of that before the Alito Alvarez fight, during the Alito Alvarez fight, before this fight, and during this fight. I'm telling you, man, I don't know what percentage Buddy's getting from Kovalev, but it probably needs to be double
But let
because,
let's give Kovalev credit though.
oh yeah, absolutely, he has the
He
tools.
he lets his hands go.
Yes,
Kovalev still does throw combinations behind that jab.
yes,
He knows little tricks. He uses angles. He does all the right things. He might
yeah.
not look like a professional fighter. He might, but it doesn't matter because looks
No,
don't win fights.
looks don't win fights, lefts and rights do. And so, and anybody that's watching right now, if you have any questions that you want to shoot to us, make sure you hit those up in the chat. If you can hashtag Ask the Fight Guys, I'll be able to pick it out of the chat easier. So just go ahead and do that. All right, so let's keep it talking Kovalev, but let's talk about what's next or what could
Mhm.
be next for Kovalev. And
Okay.
this is pretty much the fight that everybody is talking about. The
Right.
rumors are swirling. Canelo Kovalev. Pretty much it felt like Kovalev defeating Yard, was contingent. That was the contingency, of course, for him fighting Canelo
Right.
maybe in December, because obviously Canelo has set precedents for fighting in December last year when he fought Rocky Fielding, who didn't really want to fight, was ready to
Well,
go on vacation.
yeah, I heard November 2nd.
November 2nd.
That's what
Okay.
I heard, but I mean, these are just the rumors of the internet.
But what you hear tends to have a little bit more
Yeah.
little
I mean
more sexiness on it. So
I haven't asked. I mean, the truth of the matter is I'll know more tomorrow when I speak with Buddy.
yeah, November 2nd seems really quick though.
I mean,
Because okay, this fight was on what was it? The 24th?
right. But
Okay.
you have to look at programming too. And when is so December 7th, is that Joshua Ruiz field?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Right.
yes.
So we know December 14th, most likely, even though they haven't announced it, we're going to see Crawford and Kavaliskis at Madison Square Garden with Comey and Lopez in the co-feature. So
Mm,
then the next week you're into Christmas, and then you're basically, at
in
the
January.
well, then you're going to you're going to the last week. Then you're going to college bowl games, and it's just when you look at the calendar, uh,
Yeah.
I guess there's an argument to be made that okay, maybe that is the date, right? So DAZN can't compete with its own programming on December 7th, so they can't have Canelo and Joshua going on the same evening. And like I said, the 14th, it would be silly to go up against the Crawford Cavaliers Comey Lopez just because why would you do that?
Why would you do that? Just pick another day.
So, and that's at the Garden. And I guess really so November 30th, there's a PBC show. November 23rd, there's a PBC show, I think. Uh,
November
November
16th.
November 9th, there's a top rank show. I mean, none of these are gonna be bigger than Canelo, but uh,
Yeah.
at some point we're gonna have to see Andrade back on the calendar. So I don't know. I heard November 2nd. It could be completely wrong. I'm sure we'll know more, as things move
From
along.
a calendar standpoint, it definitely makes sense, but it just really seems like a pretty quick turnaround for Kovalev,
Yeah.
especially considering the fight wasn't an easy one.
Look, anything's possible, right? I mean, I could give you millions of reasons why Kovalev will turn around quickly.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I can think of several from a financial standpoint, which
I'm
at
saying.
the end of the day is all that matters.
Right, and
You
I
know.
don't think Kovalev got beat up against Yard, and Canelo's been out of the ring for a while since May,
Hmm.
so he's got to get back to work. I mean, how long could Canelo really wait?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I say, and we all know
I
if
mean,
we had to
November 6 months for Canelo since he fought Jacobs.
exactly, and if you think about it, whose time clock is going to take precedence here? The A sides.
Right, Canelo. I mean, we
Yeah.
know that. So,
So
I mean, the good news is you brought up that matchup, and are we like doing a first glance what we think? Is that what we're doing right now, or are we just talking about this? I mean, we know this is going to happen.
Yeah, we know. We pretty much know that it's going to happen. I think at this point, I think it's probably good if we discuss it on a high level, like is what we're doing now. But
Mhm.
we'll wait for more specifics because for me, when the fight takes place, I mean, I don't think it's going to necessarily change my prediction. But when the fight takes place, has a lot to do with how I see it, how I see it going.
Yeah.
You know, so
I will say this. At first glance, I would say Canelo under 9.
yeah.
However, however, a 5'8" Canelo who hasn't fought above 68, right? He fought Fielding at 68.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know at what point are you biting off more than you can chew, and that's the only question mark that
Yeah.
that I would have
Mm-hmm.
is at what point is the weight too much? And
Yeah.
at 5'8", I don't know how tall Kovalev is. I've been next to him. He's
Six
tall.
6 foot 6'1", I think.
Okay, so we saw that that didn't matter against Jacobs and against Fielding,
Mm-hmm.
but Fielding is not the fighter that Kovalev is.
No, he's not.
And that was at 68, not 75, which means Kovalev's going to come in the ring maybe closer to 85, 90.
Mm-hmm.
And Canelo's not going to be much more than 75
Yeah, I
because
think 180,
you're but
185 at the most one.
more than who?
I think Canelo at the most 185.
I don't think he can get that. Brian, I don't think he can get there.
How
If
how
he
much do you
tried,
think how much do you think he walks around at? How much does he walk around at if you know?
well, he's fighting at 60. Maybe he walks around at 80. Maybe, but that's a lot. I don't think he does. I mean, maybe. Remember, he's not even real. I mean, 60 is a good weight for him. It's a good weight for him. But just because you keep going up in weight doesn't mean
Oh,
that
you're not gonna
you can
yeah.
keep. I mean, I know some people think that's funny, right? Like, well, it's easy to put on weight, right? But it's really
Nah.
not easy to put on weight,
It's
especially
not
when
put
you.
on weight and be a fighter.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's
Right.
being effective,
Yeah.
and so I just wonder if his power is going to translate at 75, and if it's going to translate against Kovalev. So that my only question mark is: will the height, reach, and weight really, become just be too much for Canelo? Uh,
Well,
if
well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say if Canelo buries his head on Kovalev's chest and he's able to just work that body and find some a home for the overhand right, yeah, maybe that's the game plan. But he's not going to walk Kovalev down and manhandle him simply because it's just two different sizes of people.
Yeah,
What does the chat have an opinion?
yeah, Overhand says, and welcome to the Fight Guys. Overhand, don't know if this is your
Welcome.
first, don't know if this is your first show or just the first time commenting, but he says, can Canelo cut the ring off is the biggest question.
Yeah,
He says, I think his chin is good enough for light
yeah.
heavyweight though. I mean that I would say that's what it appears, but we really don't know until we see him get hit
Listen,
by a 175
I mean,
puncher.
we to Overhand's point, we saw Jacobs, and Triple G, drop some bombs on Canelo, and he didn't budge.
No, he didn't. So that's why I can totally understand why Overhand has that perspective
Yeah,
because both Triple G and Jacobs are pretty good punchers, and Jacobs is effectively it was a light heavyweight in the ring that day when he was getting hit. So
right.
I can totally understand it. Like for me, I think that it's very difficult for me to imagine Kovalev beating Canelo because more so because of his stamina issues and his problems with taking body shots. I think that Canelo will come in with a smart game plan. Canelo's head movement is superior to everybody that Kovalev has ever fought, with the exception of possibly Andre Ward, which I think is a very underrated part of Canelo's game. And it's been developed over the last 3 to 5 years because it's much better now than it used to be. But now he's legitimately difficult to hit. And on top of that, I think his height in some ways helps him because of what Kovalev's weakest areas are. Because if he can get inside that jab
Mhm.
and make a miss on make him miss on a jab here or there, slip it, body, left hook to the body. The way Kovalev's body, the weakness is set up, I don't know how many of those shots he can take from
Right.
Canelo.
But remember what we talked about a few minutes ago.
Hmm.
one of Kovalev's greatest attributes is managing the distance.
Yeah.
And, if he can be perfect for 36 minutes and has the capacity to do that, the other question is which Canelo is going to fight this fight? Counterpunching going backwards Canelo or coming forward Canelo?
If it's anything but coming forward, Canelo, he has a flawed game plan because trying to step back and counterpunch a guy who is that much taller, who has an effective jab, who can also punch, who is also fighting two weight classes above where you normally fight, that's
Mhm.
a ridiculous game plan. It's a ridiculous game plan.
I'm just saying game plans and execution are two different things.
That's true. If we were talking about a different fighter,
Yeah.
then I would say, yeah, he might not stick to the game plan. But Canelo's a professional. Canelo is a fantastic fighter.
Mhm.
I think lately he has definitely showed himself to have a high fight IQ. I think he goes out there and gets it done. I think he also doesn't like the fact that there was a lot of issues and whatever with excuse me,
Bless you.
with thank you, with his next fight. And I think he'll come out looking to make a statement. And I think this is the perfect fight to make a statement for
Yeah.
him. You know,
It's going to be an intriguing fight because it's one of those overused, sayings that we talk about all the time. Styles make fights. I mean, this is
yes,
truly it's many things. It's style. It's physical differences. It's uncharted territory
yes.
for Canelo.
Hmm.
It is can Kovalev for one last fight make some changes that would allow him to mitigate really the only advantage that Canelo would have, which could be power and body work. So I mean, it's going to be interesting. We know that both fighters are going to come prepared. The other question I have in the back of my mind was Canelo facing any true injury?
Mm,
When we were hearing about his knee, and is there any truth to that? Who knows? I don't know. But what we do know is that this seems to be inevitable. This seems to be the next fight, and the other thing is, Canelo needs to fight. Fighters need to be active.
hmm.
You can't just be out of the ring for half the year and come back and truly be on your A game. I mean, very few people can do that.
Yes, you're 100% correct there. If you are watching right now and you have not subscribed, please do that.
Please
If you,
subscribe.
yeah, if you're digging what you're seeing, also click that notifications bell. Overhand has another question, and this is in regards to Kovalev, and then we'll move on to the next topic. But he says, what could you guys take from Fonfara, a light heavyweight, stopping Chavez Jr. with ease, and Canelo ultimately having to go the distance with Chavez Jr.? So, and I get where he's coming from with that question
Yeah.
because it was Canelo fighting a bigger guy in Chavez Jr. and not being able to take him out. Now I'll give my answer to that, and I'm sure you have something to say.
Mhm.
We can say a lot of bad things about Chavez, like he doesn't work that hard, he's slow, yeah, all of this kind of stuff. But the one thing that I do know is that that dude could take a punch. Like I've seen Chavez Jr. take some shots from different fighters, and I've only really seen him look dazed maybe once, and once or twice. I think he did get stopped one of those fights. I can't remember one of his losses. I think he might have gotten stopped. But Chavez can take a shot. So I think that I think that Chavez is more durable than Kovalev. I would say that. Now, is he a better fighter? No way in the world. But just in terms of enduring punishment, I would give Chavez. I take Chavez's chin over Kovalev's. I take Chavez overall body strength and ability to just absorb what you're going to take in from a fight. I take that over Kovalev too. Kovalev's 50 times more skilled, 20 times better boxer, but just that one isolated quality that we're talking about in this particular comparison, I think Chavez Jr. is a tougher guy overall in that sense. So I don't know how you feel about that, Peter.
We all watched that fight.
Yeah.
Overhand's making a great point. He's comparing apples to apples. He's
Yes.
comparing Fanfara and the work that was done there, and he's comparing Chavez Jr. And the truth of the matter is he's right. I mean, even though Chavez Jr. took a beating, and he didn't offer much competition, Canelo couldn't get rid of him.
Right.
And I think that Kovalev's a much better skilled fighter than Chavez Jr. I think that Kovalev is not Rocky Fielding. I think that even the like I said, I mean, Rocky Fielding was taking knees from body shots and then smiling.
Yeah,
Um, he was looking for a way out before he even got in that ring.
for sure.
We haven't heard that name since the Canelo fight. Okay.
No.
So to that point, um, I think that that's a good. We got to look at that. You
Yeah.
have to look at that because ultimately, Chavez Jr. didn't do the things that the taller, longer, more natural fighter at that weight class should have done.
Yeah.
But Canelo's a great fighter. So
He's a great fighter.
we're talking about arguably pound for pound best. He's in that conversation. So could be considered, that caliber of fighter. But it's definitely a question that needs to be posed. That's why I was saying, excuse me, that's why I was saying it's really going to be a question: is he biting off more than he can chew with Kovalev? Is he getting Kovalev at the perfect time? And all of this is about Canelo's legacy. There's no reason why Canelo needs to go and try to win a world title at 75 other than wanting to be able to legitimately say that he's a 4 division world champion. And let me tell you something. That Rocky Fielding win was like a division grab because I think Fielding was the
You saying
regular
like
champion.
interim or regular champion,
Right.
something like that. Yeah.
So the point I'm making is this is all about Canelo's legacy. It's all about him wanting to be a 4 division world champion, and he's taken his shot. And look, he's already lost. It's not like he's worried about having he lost to Floyd Mayweather Jr.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
So it's not about preserving an undefeated record. Now it's just about racking up divisions.
Yeah.
And he's taken a shot. I mean, if you really look at the other light heavyweights, I'd target Kovalev too.
I'd Kovalev. Yeah. He's the most gettable
I
at
don't want any. I
175.
I would not get in there with Bodzik and Beterbiev
Bivol.
and Bivol. I would
No.
I would see how I fare against an aging, worn out Kovalev before I step in against a Bivol because those guys they're
Man.
real true 75 pounders. They're strong,
They're younger. They
fast,
can.
they're young. Yeah. This is good. This is good. I think this is look, it's boxing, it's entertaining. I think the mystery, the unknown is something that intrigues us all. And by no means would I consider Kovalev somebody that should be overlooked. I mean, let's be real. He lost 2 times to Ward. I had him winning the first fight. Arguably, it could have been a draw. It could have gone his way. It was a very close fight. Excellent fight. He lost
Mhm.
the rematch. He lost to Alvarez, but he came back and avenged it. So you got to give him credit. I mean, he's really done what he's supposed to do, and there was a time when he was dominant.
Yeah. There was a time.
And
So
he's
I
only
those.
getting older. Is he what,
Yeah.
36?
36 years old. That's why I said, and I agree with what you said. Canelo's targeting the right guy,
Yeah.
but I don't think it looks bad on Canelo because he is still jumping up 2 divisions.
Like
So
I
it
said,
kind of balances out.
it's about his legacy.
Yep. Yep. For sure.
He's going for a 4th weight class. What we have to also understand, he's not going beyond 75.
No, it's
And
like
and and, and if
virtually impossible.
and if he beats Kovalev, do not expect him to fight anyone else at 75. Expect him to come back down and then fight Andrade and Triple G and go that route.
Yeah.
That would be my guess.
Yes.
Hence why the forward thinking WBC franchise tag.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
allows him to just move up and down and maintain his champion status.
Absolutely. Yep, makes sense. It's not a bad plan. Not a bad plan. Now, we did get a question from Sean Singletary. We're gonna get to it. It is about my man Jared Hurd. So we're definitely
Mm,
going to talk about that in
okay.
a second. But let's dip to the next topic that we have because we're gonna stay. So we talked about what happened last week.
Man,
Uh,
you're gonna do your boy Sean like that?
no, I love Sean.
I
Sean's
mean,
my
he
dog.
comes into the show and
He did.
you're just like, yeah, okay.
No, see why you do that.
Wow.
That's not how
Wow.
he knows we don't do that.
Singletary, I feel you. I deal with this on a daily
He
basis.
knows we don't do that. He knows we don't do that. All right. They're coming up this week because guys, we always do this week in boxing. So we got this fight topping everything off.
Yes.
And it's really topping everything off because of Vasil Lomachenko. Lomachenko's a special fighter.
Yeah.
He's that guy. And so he's the guy at this point. I mean, it's not Canelo, it's not Floyd or Pacquiao, but he is a guy who, when he fights, it's getting to the point where his opponent kind of is secondary to everything. It's like, doesn't matter. We're gonna watch it anyway. But the great thing about this guy is he just doesn't seem to fight complete nobodies. Like
Hmm.
some fights, you're like, yeah, he's gonna destroy Anthony Crawler. Yeah, he's gonna destroy Rocky Martinez. But it's still somebody,
Hmm.
and you can still kind of understand why the fight is going on. So, um, how I can tell you how I see this fight.
Right.
Luke Campbell, he's just the speed is not there. The overall boxing acumen is not there. I I don't see a path to
Right.
victory for Campbell. I just don't. He's a nice fighter.
Hmm.
He's a nice fighter, and perhaps fighting somebody else, maybe I would give him an opportunity.
Right.
But I mean,
Well, let's break it down though.
mhm,
Let's give a little bit of statistical, support.
yes,
I mean, I agree with you. Okay, on the
yes,
surface here, I agree with you, but let's get a little bit more granular.
yes,
So we have two former gold medal Olympians,
mhm,
Lomachenko from '08 and 2012,
right,
Campbell from 2012 at bantamweight.
yes,
Okay, they're both 31 years old, I believe.
yeah,
They're both southpaws.
yes.
Campbell is probably 5'9".
Campbell is listed at 5'9".
Right, and then you have at 5'6.5", you have Lomachenko maybe?
Yes, he's
That's
definitely smaller.
71-inch reach to a 65.5-inch reach?
Right.
Okay. So, physically, they're southpaws, ton of experience, on the amateur side. They even competed in the same Olympic Games, both won gold medals, in 2012. They have a opponent in common in Jorge Linares,
Yes.
in which Linares defeated Campbell by a very close split decision, in which you can argue was closer than that.
Yeah.
Of course, we saw what we learned was an injured with his shoulder Lomachenko come back after being knocked down in the sixth round to
Mhm.
stop Linares in the 10th round with a body shot.
Right.
And so, at what, 13-1, we have Lomachenko. The one
Mhm.
loss to Orlando Salido. He's won in three weight classes already. To your point, he's just out of the gate. He was just fighting guys. I mean,
Yeah.
like there was real no off the gas pedal. Krolla was a mandatory. He had to do it because they didn't want to relinquish that title. So it is what it is. And remember, the reason he fought Krolla was he had had a special exception to fight Comey, but Comey popped his knuckle when he fought Isa Chiniev in Texas with
Mhm.
that devastating second round KO. So that is why that Krolla fight took place prior to the Comey fight.
Right.
Um, so with all that backstory and all these statistics and all of the matchup, you know, uh, Campbell's a good fighter. He's might be uh, might be one of the better skilled fighters that Lomachenko will have faced.
Yes.
Certainly not the fastest. He's not faster than Loma fought Gary Russell, right?
Yes.
Yeah, not faster than guys like that. He's not fast. You know, the problem with Campbell is that he's just, Lomachenko. To me, the way that I can best describe his style of fighting is computer like.
Mhm.
It is he's like the personification of of uh what's the word I'm looking for? The term that I'm looking for. He is the personification of
Of
uh, when you learn as you go. I'm drawing.
learning on the fly.
No, 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 no. It's a technical term. Oh my god, I'm drawing a blank here. It's when a when like war games, when a computer's learning as it goes, it's there's a terminology for it. Someone help me in the
You're
chat.
talking about artificial
Artificial
intelligence?
intelligence. So Lomachenko's like artificial intelligence. Okay.
Mhm.
My God, I just had a brain freeze. He's like artificial intelligence. He literally learns a- of the situation as the fight's taking place,
Yeah.
and that
The best do that. The
and
best do
and
that.
that's a superior boxing IQ. But it's really he's adapting in real time,
Mhm.
and he's finding holes and he's adjusting as the fight happens. So, you know, Campbell. Here's an interesting thing, right? So, according to my bookie, the opening line was minus 1,600 and change for Lomachenko, plus
Mhm.
eight, plus 1,075 or something for Campbell. So basically, you bet 1,600 and change, and to win $100, right? Terrible value. But now it's minus 1,500 for Lomachenko, plus 800 for Campbell. And it's just because the money's been coming in at a rate of 61% on Campbell. It's at the O2 Arena in London.
Mhm.
Campbell has the hometown advantage, that he's going to have a crowd to lift him. For me, the greatest bet of the evening is Lomachenko by decision plus 250. You're simply betting that Campbell will find a way to last 36 minutes and end this fight on his feet like Pedraza did,
Yeah.
like a moral victory,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
That's my take. My take is that if Campbell could get energized, if he can find a way to survive, ultimately what Lomachenko is going to do, which is learn how to get to him. Maybe those physical traits will help him stay out of harm's way long enough to like I said, lose a decision. And look, Campbell's losses both in his career have been split decision losses, so it's not like he's a complete pushover.
Oh no, he's definitely not a complete pushover at all. But he's, you know what else he is, which I think is a bad thing for him, especially in this fight, is he's a
Counterpuncher.
well, that and he's a relative slow starter. And that's, I think, against Lomachenko, I think that's a
Right.
bad situation because Loma is going to get stronger as the fight goes on because, as
Right.
you said, he downloads the data,
Yeah.
applies it, and starts to adjust. Well, if you haven't even gotten started yet,
Yeah.
or you're not having your best rounds early, then because if you look at the fight with Linares,
Hmm.
Campbell arguably lost every round except for one in the first 6 rounds.
Right. And he got
Yeah,
dropped.
and he got dropped.
And that was an experience thing.
Straight right hand. Bah.
Lenore's moving,
Yes.
catching him on the turn,
Hmm.
and I don't think Campbell saw the punch.
No.
And it's that type of, like you said. I'm sorry for my long-winded explanation. I didn't want to just gloss over it. I wanted to give some context to it. But I still think it'll be. I'm still going to watch it, live blog it. And
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
so
Yeah, I think for me, I can definitely see the fight going the distance because to me, Campbell isn't an underskilled guy who has no business in the ring with Lomachenko. That's not what this is. This is a good fight, the right fight to make. It's just that I just can't imagine Campbell defeating Lomachenko. I think the fight goes to a decision. I think that a hometown crowd or judges influenced by a hometown crowd could make it a little closer than what we expect. But I wouldn't be surprised to see 116, 112 across the board, or
right.
116, 112, 115, 111. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. I think that
You really think Campbell
Lomachenko,
can pull out 4 rounds on Lomachenko?
I think it's possible. I think it's possible because he's not dog slow
Right.
and he is longer.
So
Uh,
to your point of him being a slow starter, when does he get those rounds?
if he could get it, I could see him maybe winning something like the third and the fourth,
Okay.
something to that effect. But then from the fourth round on, Lomachenko just completely turns it on. Maybe sometime later in the round and later in the fight, Loma goes to try to finish, doesn't get it done, and maybe the ninth or 10th, maybe Campbell comes back, takes a quiet round or two later in the fight, gets to 4 rounds. Anywhere between 3 to 4 rounds is what I would say is the max of what I could see Campbell getting
I
in
mean,
this fight.
yeah, and to your point, I mean, Lomachenko's on a different level.
Yeah.
You can say, well, when he's fought guys that were below his weight, like when he fought Ragundiao, regardless of the weight, he just didn't have an answer for him.
Doesn't have an
And
answer, man.
that
And
was a super skilled fighter
yes,
that
yes.
could not figure out how to get past anything.
We talking about
And he quit.
an
Elite level.
elite level fighter.
Skills from a skill standpoint.
Standpoint. Yes, elite. I mean, you're not going to find many people who have better footwork,
Right.
better judges of distance than Ragondial,
And he quit.
and he quit. Made him literally tap out as if he was in the rear naked choke. So it's it's
Listen,
that way.
I thought Linares was on his way to a
Yeah,
draw or an upset win, but it takes a special type of fighter to then just figure out how to get it done.
yeah, and
And
he
and I
did.
and I think it was Pedraza's physical traits, the height, the reach, and the ability to stay away from harm's way. Although it seemed like Loma was going to get to him,
Yeah, 15 rounds he gets him.
yeah, just another minute he might have gotten him. I mean,
Yeah,
Pedraza was out of gas. I think he
yeah,
took a knee in the 12th,
yeah.
but he hung on. So I think we're going to see a packed O2 arena just
Mhm.
going crazy, chanting, singing. If Campbell can't get energized by that audience, then I don't know what gets you going.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. You know, to me, if he can't win this fight, then there's no reason for a rematch, no matter
Now,
how it goes.
now he has a decent amount of KOs, but they're just not against high
They're
level.
not against that guy. Yeah, these guys. So yeah,
Right.
because that's one thing you always want to look at. You always want to look at um if a lot of fighters have a decent amount of KOs, but you got to look at the competition.
Right.
And like we've talked about, we don't put an insane amount of stock in in what the BoxRec star system, but
Right.
it does have some level of validity. If you look at Campbell's last four stoppage wins, the last two were against Adrian Young, who was a 2-star fighter on BoxRec.
Mhm.
Troy James is a 1-star fighter on BoxRec. He did stop Darlis Perez and Jairo Lopez. Oh, both are
Right.
3-star fighters, and also Derry Matthews. But you can easily make the case Derry Matthews was way past his prime.
It's also where you get them. Right.
Yeah, 38-10, and at that point in his career.
Listen,
So
Cool Hand Luke can fight.
yeah, he
I mean,
can.
there's no doubt about it. I mean, you're talking about a gold medal Olympian who's had an excellent professional career. No shame in losing a split decision to Linares. Like I said, could have gone either way. A lot of people thought Campbell didn't lose that fight.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it just depends how you look at it. And then the other
as
law,
against Yvonne Mendy,
right? I mean, that's
and he avenged that loss.
right. And another
Last year.
split decision loss.
Yeah,
So, his losses have been close. He's never been stopped. I think the only time he might have been down was against Linares,
yeah,
who you can argue, aside from Orlando Salido, that beat Lomachenko in his second fight. Linares might have been Lomachenko's toughest fight to date.
yeah. I mean, you could say Lomachenko, you can say Linares or Gary Russell. Gary Russell was a tougher fight than I
Mhm.
think people remember.
I think
Lomachenko,
he was like 24-0 at that time.
yeah, he was. Lomachenko only won that fight by majority decision, and when
Brian, are you impressed with my statistical knowledge ever?
I, you know what? I got an even better compliment. I'm not surprised.
I appreciate that.
There you go.
Okay.
So that's the last one you'll get. All
Okay.
right. But Gary Russell was won by majority. I mean, Lomachenko
Right.
only won that fight by majority decision.
Sure.
So
Right. Yeah.
so that's something to take note of. But
I would
it's
just say this: if you're thinking about tuning in or not tuning in, tune into ESPN Plus. It's going to be a good fight. It's going
I
to be
think
a
it's gonna
great
be a good
show.
fight.
It's going
Yeah,
to
I
be a
think it's gonna
great
be good.
show. Going to be a lot of energy. I wouldn't rule out the crowd having an effect on the evening.
Hmm.
I think it's going to be exciting. And for what it's worth, I don't think it's worth much. We're going to see Huey Fury and
Against
now
Povetkin.
Povetkin for what
Hmm.
it's worth. I don't even know
Oh,
what it's worth.
I
But I'm going to tune in.
think it's interesting.
It's
You know,
interesting.
and there's also a flyweight world title fight. Charlie Edwards against Julio Cesar
Yeah,
Martinez. So
it's going to be a good show.
yeah, and also on the same night on Fox, you have Erislan Lara defending his regular WBA junior middleweight title against Ramon Alvarez. So uh, I wouldn't expect a lot of people to be watching that card
Right.
unless they don't want to pay down for that
But
ESPN Plus
but no, no,
subscription.
no. Listen, number one, they're not competing. The ESPN show, I think, will be on like 5 p.m.
Yeah, you're right.
Will be the
You're
main
right.
event because
You're right.
it's in London,
You're right.
and the Fox show probably comes on after this broadcast is over. And I mean, come on, for $4.95 a month, how could you not have ESPN Plus?
That's kind of how I look at it, but
I mean, that's like honestly, really, I spend that with 2 Doppio espresso macchiatos in a day at Starbucks. So,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, for sure. Now, also another fight on that card, and I'm sure you've probably already been talking to some people about this, is Jeff Horn against Michael Zarafa. So he's that fight's taking place. I don't know what time it'll be because
on
uh,
what card? That's taking place in Australia.
I'm sorry, not on that card on the same day is what I
Yeah,
mean.
that's taking place in Australia.
Yeah, but
Um,
what time in stateside? I wonder is that going to be?
they're not doing it for stateside,
Obviously
so
not. Yeah, obviously
there's
not. Yeah.
that's probably a Fox pay-per-view, in Australia, if I had to guess.
Hmm.
And they probably couldn't care less if anyone tunes in. I managed Michael Zarafa for about 1 hour. Uh,
Okay.
long story.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't see that being a very uh, a very competitive fight. I think Jeff's gonna take care of
Bully.
Zarafa. I mean, Zarafa's a tough kid. He's fun to watch. He has a little pop in him. He went the distance with Kell Brook. Peter Quillen knocked him out
Yeah.
when he was young and inexperienced. So I mean, he's game, and he's getting his shot. I think he's more of a true middleweight than Jeff is, but I also have a lot of experience with Jeff, and I know Jeff, as you know personally.
He's a big guy.
We're friends, and he's just a strong guy. I mean, another Olympian, right? He also competed in the Olympics. People underestimate him. I mean, yeah, he lost to Crawford. I mean, he beat Pacquiao. Even Crawford went on Joe Rogan a week ago, right? A
Hmm.
week, actually, a little more than a week ago Monday, and said after watching Pacquiao Horn, changed his mind about that fight
Hmm.
and said he felt Jeff Horn won that fight.
Yeah. I,
And
I
and
I did too.
yeah, and although Crawford dominated Horn, it wasn't like Horn wasn't game. I mean,
No,
Crawford
he was there. He just wasn't good enough.
just wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
He's good enough to beat Zarafa.
Yeah. I would. I
Oh,
would.
and
I
and
would.
here's and here's just if you guys just a little inside information. If Horn gets past Zarafa, he's fighting Murata in Japan next for the middleweight title.
That's an interesting fight.
Yeah, and if he gets past Murata, he'll fight Rob Brandt in, I think, Australia.
uh, Which is a huge payday for him. So
Yeah,
uh,
I'm just
he's
kind
got
of we're
he's
talking
got the
boxing,
ducks. He
so
got the ducks in a row.
he's
He's
got him
definitely
lined up.
he's got them lined up. All right. So another thing that is lined up,
Mm-hmm.
November 7th. I cannot freaking wait.
Mm-hmm.
Naoya in the way,
In a
which you
way, right?
always make me get it right here.
Uh huh.
But I
In a
think
way,
everybody needs to get it right because in a way is I'm moving to the place
that he might be
where
pound for pound.
that he might be the best fighter in the world.
Maybe.
He might be the best
Yeah.
fighter in the world. Now, Donaire's not the Donaire of before,
No,
but that
he's still
fisty
Donaire.
that fist he has up right there
Yeah.
is still a heck of a weapon.
It,
That left hook is one he has
hey,
to, has to be accounted for.
it could be who lands their punch first.
It could be, but I am of the belief
In a way, a
that
machine.
he's a machine, man. I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like I'm telling you, you guys may not
What's the date on that fight?
November 7th.
What does the chat think about him? Because we saw him in the what series was it?
The
The
World Boxing Super Series. This is the
dominant.
this is the final of that,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Yeah.
I thought he
So
won the final.
no, right.
I think he's
No.
gonna win the final.
I think he's gonna win the final too.
Where's the
And,
fight?
and I hate, you know what I hate though? I hate that like I have it that open and shut because I really do love Donaire. I've always liked Donaire. But man, this dude is
Look,
this this dude is different, man.
the way I look at in a way is the way that like I think a lot of people looked at Chocolatito, Roman Gonzalez,
Yes.
when he was considered pound for pound champ. He kind of flew under the radar,
Hmm.
but for boxing people, like we knew
Hmm.
that he was pound for pound. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. The fight's in Saitama, Japan, so that don't help Donaire either.
What weight is in a way?
That is they're fighting at at bantamweight. It's a bantamweight
Light
unit.
right. So,
Yeah.
I mean, look, some of the best exciting fights have taken place at bantamweight,
Yes.
at smaller weights. Honestly, it's a shame for me
Hmm.
that I mean, I'm just going to be real. I would love to manage some guys at that weight because I just think some of the best fights and exciting fights happen at those weights.
Yeah.
There's just doesn't pay.
Yeah. Doesn't pay
And I
because
don't know why, because
it's size bias, man. It's size bias,
but it's
and
the public dictates what the value of the fighters
but
are.
I think it's American public because it's not that way in other countries, especially not in Asia.
Okay, well, American public and American networks are the ones that are paying fighters
Right.
30 million a
So
fight. So it's like they are driving the marketplace.
exactly. So, but that's the answer to your question.
Yeah, but
You
it's a
know.
shame
Yeah.
because there we can name, like you've brought up names in the past like Ricardo Torres and even when Michael Carbajal was a star coming out of the Olympics,
Too
uh,
sharp.
too sharp. I mean, there's so many other fighters that even Prince Nassim Hamed. I mean, when even though he was featherweight, still, I mean,
Featherweight is about the lowest that people
yeah,
will normally pay attention.
yeah, it's a shame. I wish that wasn't the case
Hmm.
because there are some very exciting fights that if they were to get highlighted, people would just. I mean, some of these guys fight 36 minutes in a phone booth, and the output of punches and the skill level and the movement. Even a friend of ours, Brian Valoria.
Yes.
When he
Yes.
fought was very exciting.
And Brian Valoria is a funny dude too. Like,
But you got to spend a little time with him,
yeah,
right?
he's funny. Like
He is
for
funny. Yeah,
his wit is like
yeah,
he's
he's
a
good.
funny dude. He's
And
a
he's
funny dude.
turning and he's really coming into his own as a trainer as well.
Yes.
He trains one of my
He
fighters,
changed
Chris van
Chris.
Heerden.
Yeah.
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 By the way, Chris, side note, had an excellent interview at the WBC LA office on their podcast today.
Hmm.
It goes beyond boxing. It
Yes, it
touches on.
does.
Did you get a chance to catch
I
it?
got it. I didn't get a chance to listen to the whole thing, but I did get a chance to
Okay.
listen to some of it, and I really.
Look,
So here's the
yeah,
thing. If
tell me.
and I'll say this because Peter knows him much better than I do. But
But you've spent some time
I've
around him.
spent
You know.
time. I've definitely spent time with him. There are some people in the world that when you meet them, they have a aura of just like, wow, this is a really nice person. Just they just carry that. And this dude, I'm telling you, like he's going into his weigh-in for the fight, right? Kids are getting on the elevator. He's literally initiating conversations with kids, putting his arm around the kids. I mean, and there's no cameras around, so he's not doing this so people could go, "Oh, Chris Van Heerden is a great guy." This is just the nat. And then so I'd only met Chris one time, and it was virtual, right? So
Right.
I walk up to him and I say, and I'm about to introduce myself. And he's like, "Oh, I know you. You're Brian. You're from the interview. And we talked about the McGregor." Da, 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 da," and just like it's some people are just different. Some people are just gifted in the way of being amicable and being courteous. And no matter what he does as a fighter, Chris Van Eerden's greatest gift is his humanity and his personality.
Best way. He's a gentleman,
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
he's honest.
Yeah.
He's authentic.
Mhm,
And he's going to get a shot at this welterweight title because I'm going to
mhm,
make that happen.
mhm.
But he is just a genuine human being, and he'll crack the top 15. Look, he people underestimate him. I mean, his only real loss in his 30 fights is to Errol Spence.
Yeah. And
I mean,
Spence gives him his props for the fight too, so,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So anyway, I just I wanted to put that out there. If you have an opportunity, and you can find that on the WBC Facebook page or YouTube channel, it was a pretty inspiring interview. Not just because I work with Chris, uh, it just talks about his faith, his coming, overcoming adversity, tragedy. His father was murdered last year in South Africa. There's a lot of problems in South Africa right now, and
Mhm.
Chris said he forgives the guy that killed his dad. I mean, it's for the greater good of what he wants to see for his country.
And it
You
was and it's important to note that it wasn't just that somebody he forgives the guy that killed his dad. It was a racially motivated murder. And Chris van Heerden is a white South African, and he was, for anybody that doesn't know, and his dad was killed in a racially motivated incident by black South Africans. And I felt that it's very important for everybody to understand that racism going any way, left or right, back and forth, black towards white, white towards black, however it comes, is a horrible thing. And it's not just, obviously it's more predominant with it happening um to African Americans, especially in this country,
Right.
but across the world there are people that are having things done to them, because of their race. And it's not just, one race that is always the victim or the recipient, but even through that, Chris still maintains who he is. He still talked to me and treated me the way he did. He still talked to my son and treated my son the way he did. Didn't know him at all. So I think that's a definite inspiration. But
Like you said, it's an aura. It goes beyond, beyond boxing, beyond
mhm,
it's humanity, and that's who he is.
yes, yes,
And that's why I want the best for him because and the interview was just it was and you're a man of faith.
hmm,
The two of you have that in common.
hmm,
And if you watch the whole interview, he gets into that. But he's just real.
yeah,
He's just
yeah,
real. And I love when I see fighters that give other fighters props when they could admit when they've fallen short, when they could be just a little vulnerable
hmm.
and talk openly. So it was a great platform. I'm grateful for the WBC for giving them that opportunity today. And I think it was one of their more special interviews. So if you have an opportunity, guys, check that out.
Yeah, I'll make sure we put the link to it in the description of the video so you can check it out. All right, so I want to jump back to my man Sean's question
Oh, you
before
didn't
we.
forget about Jared Hurd. I
Absolutely not,
was
not.
gonna
So we're
say
gonna.
Singletary's still here.
Oh, he definitely. I don't think he would leave us like that. But Sean says, as the fight guys, my hometown guy, Jared Hurd, recently had an unfortunate setback against Julian Williams.
Mhm.
What is next for both men? Well, I know for a fact Julian Williams' next fight is already set up, but they're trying to deal with the VADA testing, and I think that he was getting a little bit of pushback on
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So that's that. For as far as Jared Hurd, I really haven't, no pun intended, heard anything about what is going on with Jared Hurd moving forward. Uh, Obviously, you have far more ear to the street situations than I do with that. So, have you heard anything about Jared Hurd?
No, the only thing I know about Jared Hurd, I think he's a great fighter. I think it was an excellent fight.
Hmm.
Props to Julian Williams, watching him come back, get himself back in the mix, win a world title. Excellent performance. I think my only question is if Hurd can continue to make 154. He's
Man,
always just seemed like a big man for 154.
man, bro, he this
I mean,
guy, this
look,
guy is a light
there
heavyweight,
there's
man.
no impediments. Yeah,
He's a
there's no impediments. They're both with PBC. The fight's easy to make. I don't really quite understand why there would be an issue with VADA testing. It's such the norm these days, unless you're Dennis Hogan and you fight Munguia in Mexico. But other than
whoop,
that,
whoop, whoop.
it's a norm. So I didn't hear much. I mean, I'm friends with Stephen Edwards on social media, and I haven't seen much about what he had taught.
Stephen Edwards or Stephen? Who you talking about?
Who's the trainer for
Okay,
J Rock.
okay. I thought I didn't, because we were talking about PBC Showtime or whatever. I thought you may have been had. I thought you might have been thinking Stephen Espinoza and said
Oh no,
Stephen.
no, no! I'm talking about J Rock's trainer.
Gotcha, gotcha.
So what I'm saying is, I just haven't seen much about. I mean, originally he had posted some stuff, and there was some talk about it, but yeah, I hadn't heard much about it. My only question mark would be weight. It would be the only thing. But I can't imagine that. Look, being in the PBC family, being under that umbrella, these guys have an opportunity to come back where they want to come back. So if Jarrett Hurd wanted to come back at middleweight, it wouldn't be long before he'd have opportunity. But the only thing is, what middleweight champions does PBC have right now?
Yeah, it's not looking. I mean, they got Charlo, so
Right, right, right.
that's the
So,
only one.
right, okay. So they have Charlo. So that's a great scenario.
Hmm.
Um, but there's so much talent there at 154 that
It's bigger money though fighting Charlo. I would think Charlo Hurd. I think, but I think he has to beat Julian
well,
Williams though.
Wasn't that the plan?
Well, the plan was to fight the plan was to fight Jermell, not Jermall.
Right. Oh, that's right.
So
I'm at 154. Never mind. I'm
right,
sorry. Right.
right.
And then Charlo lost to Harrison, and then Hurd lost to Williams. So really there wasn't much to do right after that fight. But to answer your question and to answer Sean's question, I haven't even really paid attention to it. I'm sure we can figure out. For some reason, I thought that there might was there an injury leading up to that too, or am I getting confused with just Harrison?
I think I don't if there was an injury, I don't think there was. I don't think
Okay.
there was because what I've been doing, I've been kind of following Julian Williams. And speaking of honest,
Hmm.
Julian Williams also has that quality.
Yeah.
Dude is really super upfront. He doesn't do fighter speak.
No.
He doesn't do that. He just talks.
Yeah.
So and he's a very interesting follow on social media. So if you're a boxing fan, I would encourage you to give him a look. Him and Regis Prograis I find pretty entertaining on social media.
Y-
Uh, yeah, but I've been following it kind of through him, and he's an open book.
You know,
So
you brought up an interesting point, and I speak to Margaret Goodman every now and then, simply because all my guys are enrolled in VADA testing, whether it's through the WBC clean boxing program or just have to participate in advance of any championship fights or any eliminators. And so maybe she's the president of VADA, right? She was a long
mhm.
time the VADA commissioned doctor. Maybe we should get her on the show one day and just like have people just ask nothing but VADA questions, everything you wanted to know about VADA and drug testing.
That would be fantastic.
It's just so many questions, and now I'm dealing with UCAD. Interestingly enough,
Mm,
for a new client, I'm not going to mention right now, but who has an issue, and that's a whole other organization, right? That's the UK anti-doping.
mhm.
And look, it's fascinating, right? Because you would just think that every athlete in the sport would be enrolled or would be held accountable in every fight. I don't
Mhm.
know, and that's the question I have. I don't know why it's only relevant in world title and eliminator and other regional title sanctioned fights. I mean, shouldn't it just be across the board?
Should be, but I mean, you would think that, but it's not the way that it's shaken out. So, I mean, there's all these different variables that go along with that
Right.
whole situation, but
But I digress.
right, right,
Sorry.
right. No, it's cool. So, we do have another question from Sean, and we're going to do that. And before we jump to our next topic, which we're going to get into after this question from Sean, we'll
Mhm.
go in a little bit into fantasy land for a
Oh,
second. And Peter loves fantasy land. He usually dresses up when he's in fantasy land, but this time not so much. So
you got me.
I got you. I'm sorry.
You called me out.
So this next question is about the Charlo twins, and this one comes also from Sean Singletary, and he says, "Thought he wants our thoughts on the Charlo twins. Are they really the future of boxing in our eyes?" I'll answer that first and foremost. It's really hard for me to say
What do you
that.
mean? Oh,
Hmm?
you used to refer to them as the Black Klitschko's.
I did, and here's what I said. Here's what I said. So let's say
Just
what
keep
I'm.
me honest.
No, but actually, but you gotta properly quote me and put it in the right context first. So
The Black
what?
Klitschko's.
So what? So what? So here's the deal. I don't think that they can be the future until they've established themselves as the present. And I don't think that they are the present at all. And the reason why I say that is because of their age. They're not young 22, 23-year-old guys anymore, right? They are, I think, 27 or 28.
Still in their
So they're still in their prime, but they haven't become the guys, not even in their stable. Okay, not even amongst PBC. So if we're asking a question, are they the future of boxing? Which to define that would mean they would become the number one attraction within boxing. They're nowhere near that. They're not even the number one attraction in their stable. Now, I don't blame them for that. I have said this before, and this is what Peter's referring to with the Black Klitschko's, because I said, and I told Steve Farhood this the first time that we spoke to him. In case you didn't get a chance to see last week's episode, take a look on the channel. We had Steve Farhood with us for almost the entire show. But I said that PBC should be marketing them in such a way that they are like the Black Klitschko's. They should be everywhere because of the combination of rarity and skill. When is the next time we'll have world championship level identical twins in combat sports? When is the next time that'll ever happen? They have,
Are you
I mean,
asking me?
I, I mean, it's a rhetorical question, but
Highly unlikely.
highly unlikely, right? And these guys have a look. They have a look that makes you go, who are those guys? You know what I mean? Whether you look at them and say, who are those guys? They look like idiots, or who are those guys? They're cool. Whatever it is you think, you're probably going to have a thought because they're identical twins that are world championship level fighters. And to me, the fact that they have not been pushed in a way that says, look, we got something special here that you'll never see again. They could literally make the claim that you'll never see this again. You know why? Because we've never freaking seen it before, ever. And do you know how many people who would somewhat call themselves fight fans that probably wouldn't even be able to pick the Charlos out on the street?
I mean,
And, and
they're not the only ones, and
they're not the only ones, what?
that you potentially couldn't pick
But
out those
they're identical twins that are championship level fighters.
Brian. I'll make the argument if Deontay Wilder, who we love, okay,
No, he's 6'7". You could pick him out.
he's could still walk down the street in New York and people not turn around and say, "Hey, there's the heavyweight champ of the world."
I think it'll be much tougher.
I
I think
I,
it. I
I
think it'll be much tougher because he's
look,
6'7",
they're
and
not.
I think it'll be much tougher because he's a bigger star than they are.
What you're saying is correct. Okay, they're not superstars,
No,
but
they should be.
they're pretty dominant. Jamal is undefeated. Jamal has the setback against Harrison. They're exciting, explosive. They're good. They're not great. They're not
Why in
great.
the world? Why in the world is Gervonta Davis a bigger star than the Charlos?
Well, Gervonta Davis is a bigger star because they've been working very hard. So let's look at this.
That's my point.
No, Brian. But let's look at this. And we're gonna look at it this way. There's two ways to measure this. Okay. There's in the boxing realm where you can say, and you used a very particular word,
Hmm.
star,
Hmm. Right.
because Gervonta doesn't have a name on his record that can put him in the conversation of star, or I'm sorry, of you know top, in my opinion, of top 10 pound for pound, because you
Oh,
have to.
nowhere near.
Okay,
Nowhere near.
but there are people that are, like you said, they're buying into the marketing machine, okay?
Hmm.
Which has trying to define him as the biggest name in boxing or the future of boxing. And that's a great comparison, right? That you're bringing up. Why Gervonta, they've learned and figured out how to target a certain audience. You and I have talked about this,
Yes.
and they're targeting a very particular audience. What's that
Hmm.
audience?
It's the hip hop audience.
That's right, and they're being successful at it.
Yeah, but
And
my point is,
I will say, but I'm going to answer your question.
mhm,
So although they're all under the PBC banner, there is one distinct difference, and this could be the difference. Davis is signed to Mayweather Promotions,
mhm,
where the Charlos are not.
that's true.
Okay, so
Mhm,
although they're under PBC, um, and people might think that, well, what does it really matter? Mayweather, that's just PBC, that's Al Heyman anyway. But no, this is something I think that Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Leonard Ellerbe are having their own influence and using their own connections and using their own network to help further Davis's career, aside from just being part of that whole PBC family. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you, and I don't disagree with
I
anything
don't
that
think
you're saying.
anyone, but what I'm saying is the Charlos don't have anyone to advocate for them.
And this is all my point. This is
Right.
everything you're saying. This is
But
pretty much my
I'm
point.
just trying to illustrate it in a way why PBC is different because they're not a promoter.
Yes, right.
So I'm answering your question is the Charlos don't have a promoter.
Yeah.
They have a network.
y-
They have a platform in which they fight,
There you go.
but they don't
There,
have a promoter.
and they need a promoter
They need a promoter.
badly.
But
And
that's the reason why.
yeah, it's just crazy to me, man.
But you
Because
understand what I'm like Mayweather and Ellerby are doing the extra as the promoter for Davis.
yes, yeah. But
Even though they're under the I mean, you saw him on The
it's
Breakfast Club, you see him on other shows,
honest,
he's
dude.
getting national public exposure.
Honestly, and honestly, obviously, Al Heyman must know something way more than I know because he has a gazillion dollars,
Mhm.
and I'm
And he's a brilliant guy.
right, and so, but were it me, I would hire a promoter, which is pretty much what happens. I would get, and not even a promoter, but just a representative who would take the Charlos, and it
Mhm.
would be their mission to push. There is no reason in the world that Jermall Charlo shouldn't be on the same level
Mhm.
from a not maybe not even on the same level, but I got a good example um, from a tiering standpoint, right? So
Mhm.
you remember when Floyd came up and he got tired of De La Hoya getting all of the top rank push, felt
Mhm.
like he wasn't getting the love and the attention. So he came at De La Hoya because he knew that's who he had to kind of go over.
Mhm.
In my opinion, Jermall Charlo should be looking at Canelo the same way. Everybody who's dealing with his career should be looking at him the same way. And that should be where the attack should be taking place. If the promotion was behind, obviously, I hear what you're saying. I know what you're saying. He doesn't have a promoter. He does. I get it. He
Okay.
doesn't have anybody
Hold on,
advocate.
hold on,
What
hold on.
I'm telling you is what
Who's
should be
hold on.
happening.
Who's his manager?
Ow.
Right.
Yeah.
Davis has a manager.
Yeah.
In addition to Al,
Yeah.
He has Ravone Littlejohn, who also has
Yeah.
Adrian Broner.
Mhm.
These are people that are working outside of the PBC umbrella to further
So let me ask you.
the brand.
So let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
Why doesn't why don't the Charlos have another person in place?
I don't know. That's you'd have to ask them. Maybe we can get them on.
Yeah.
But I don't want, I mean, they're gonna, you know, look, they must know this,
They
right?
have to.
I
They
mean,
have to.
but it's the same argument that when PBC welterweight fighters stick out their chest and point the finger at Crawford and go na 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 na, right?
Mhm.
Like we're all here running the welterweight division, fighting each other, making big fights, doing pay-per-views, and you can't even make a competitive fight because your promoter doesn't have anyone competitive for you to fight.
Mhm. It's
And
I don't get it. I don't get it. And that obviously this wasn't a planned segment, but I think almost every time somebody says Charlos to me,
but here's the
I,
thing, you love the Charlos, and
I do.
I think you're more frustrated than anything else.
I love
All
the
right, so
Charlos are two of
right,
the most exciting fighters to watch in the sport right now to me.
right. So let's say this, right? So we have Jermel who's going to get another shot at Harrison. Maybe he wins his title back. Okay,
Mhm.
maybe he doesn't. We have Jamal who's going to fight in December, and he's going to defend his WBC middleweight title against
Mhm.
TBA.
Mhm.
So what? So anyway, but the point is that it's just not on anyone's radar.
Yeah.
And that's to your point. Um, I think we've also seen some news last week that
Mhm.
I don't know if it's news or if it's banter about Showtime. I don't know where it started about Showtime, and this is not a planned segment either. But since we're talking about this, how Showtime could be getting out of boxing, and then Steven Espinosa said not true.
Quickly came back.
Right, when not true. But then you got to look at where PBC's big shows are now shifting, and it seems like all the good shows are going to Fox. So you got to wonder what.
I think the only people carrying the Showtime banner right now is Deontay, Broner. No,
Well,
Broner was on Fox
but
last.
but didn't Deontay fight um uh uh what's his name?
Brazil.
Brazil on Fox?
I think it was on. Was it? I had to double check that.
He's been doing a heck of a lot of commentating on Fox.
Yes.
And I thought
Yes.
they were using that to build his fight. I don't know. Look, we're all over the place.
Boxing will do that, and especially when you
We're
open up
addicts. We're addicts.
the chat, it'll definitely do that.
Is
But
our
yeah,
what is our chat saying? They probably want to talk to us, and we're just like rambling.
no,
Any questions?
I got my finger on the pulse
Oh,
there
let's
pretty
see.
well. I
Okay.
got my finger on the pulse there. Usually it's
Anyone calling us idiots today?
not yet. Not yet. No, the
Okay.
Dominic Brazil was Showtime. It was
Okay,
Showtime.
Showtime.
It was
Okay.
Showtime. Yeah, it was Showtime. So, all right. So let's just jump. So we're gonna. I told you we're gonna do a little bit of fantasy. Hopefully, you guys dig this. Uh, so I've been kind of just doing some looking around on Instagram, Facebook, and a lot of times people bring up these different concepts, and some of them, I'll be honest, I think they're absolutely ridiculous, and I think they're not even like worth having a conversation. But every once in a while, there's one that I go, maybe, you know. So let's talk about a few of those. And I'm just going to put an image up. And some of them I have to give a little bit of a context, but some of them kind of speak for themselves. So this first one here, this is an old school picture.
Mm-hmm.
Andre Ward, Floyd Mayweather with their
Mm-hmm.
records under them.
Right.
So my question to you, Peter,
Mm-hmm.
is which record is most impressive, considering the two gentlemen and the resumes?
I would say for me it would be equal ground.
Okay.
I
Okay.
I I mean I think that for the most part they both fought everyone they should have fought. They might have kind of delayed some fights, but overall, I mean, I know you want me to pick one and make an argument, but neither of them knows what losing feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Both
And
of them have,
Andre really doesn't know because Andre hasn't lost a fight since he was like 8.
but
So,
but wasn't there a point where he wasn't really fighting meaningful fights or having some inactivity? I don't even
yeah,
remember.
that was later. That was when
I mean, look,
that
you
was when
can.
our friend Steve Kim had him as his public enemy number one. He was
All right. Well, I mean,
constantly at it.
you can argue the 18 additional wins by Mayweather is just very powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, 18 more fights. I mean, fights are fights.
Yeah.
So you can say that those 18 more fights. I just think they're both spectacular fighters, two Hall of Famers. So for me to pick, I mean, if I had a pick, I would say, well, Mayweather has 50, Ward has 32, and therefore, I would say Mayweather. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that Mayweather might have had more. I think he would have had more monumental wins on his record. And I think that's just a function of the divisions that he's fought in and the competitors that were in there that might have been higher profile and better competitive fights, even though Ward took care of business and did what was in front of him. And unbelievable fighter. I mean, great fighter to watch. I mean, anyone that wants to learn the sweet science and I mean, you can watch both these guys
Mm-hmm.
and you can take their styles and look at all the things they do right mentally and physically and say that they're just both to the best. But I mean, if we're trying to if I had to pick somebody in this case, I would just say the 18 additional fights on Mayweather's record would set him apart.
Yeah, yeah, and in some ways, I think it's tough whenever you get into a situation where you're comparing guys who fought in different weight classes.
Yeah.
The guy who is the heavier one generally is at a bit of a disadvantage, and because there's less places for him to go in terms of because most guys who are larger, they're not going to come down and fight; they only go up, and the heavier they are, the less room it is for them to move up because it gets to a point where even if you start at welterweight and end up fighting as high as 168, it's probably it's very difficult to imagine you going up any higher than that. Case in point, we're just talking about Canelo today. Canelo's height is what it is. It's not probably even realistic to even think about him fighting above light heavy. So he has this 154 to 175 kind of scheme. you look at somebody like Pacquiao who came from so far down, so far up, even someone like Henry Armstrong, he started off very low in weight and moved up with higher weight classes. So I think the smaller guy generally has an advantage if you're looking at it that way. But I also look at it from a standpoint of the amount of Hall of Famers
Mhm.
on a resume. And I do think that a
Well,
lot of that is a
Floyd's
funk.
Floyd's gonna have the advantage there.
Yeah, I do think a lot of that is a function of the weight class.
Yeah.
Obviously, Ward fought a
The
lot at
era, the era.
yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Ward
the you know,
Yeah, Ward fought a lot at 168, and outside of the Super Six tournament that he was in and won, when he fought very good fighters in that time period, there wasn't a lot of noteworthy competition that he fought before that. Then he goes up to 175, and of course
right,
he beats Kovalev twice, which is
right,
a strong victory. He beat Chad Dawson,
right,
which is another strong victory. So he has some very solid
right.
wins on his resume, but he doesn't have wins over guys like Pacquiao,
Mhm.
Canelo, Cotto, Mosley, even though he was past his prime,
De La
Juan
Hoya.
Manuel Marquez, De La Hoya, Ricky Hatton, Zab Judah, all of these guys,
Um,
Jose Luis Castillo, you know,
Morales, Diego Morales.
Diego Morales, which in
Right.
my opinion is still
Yeah,
Floyd's best victory. And that's still the best. That fight, if you want to see
right.
what I would consider the absolute best of Floyd,
Yeah.
watch him against Diego Corrales.
Well, you can argue that Floyd lost to Castillo.
I no,
You
that is that
you
that's my point.
but you can argue that if Ward fought in the era of Roy Jones Jr. and James Toney, he may not have made it out of that division unscathed. So, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things we could say,
Oh
but
my God. Whew. Andre Ward, James Tony. You want to talk about a fantasy fight?
I'm just saying, like,
That
if
would
there
be a beautiful
yeah,
fight.
but that's the whole shoulda, coulda, woulda, maybe, what
Yeah.
if. I mean, we could do that, but to answer your question, I'm gonna stay with Floyd Mayweather because just the additional 18 wins and, the level of opposition.
Yeah. Yeah. I would
Taking
that
nothing away from Andre Ward, though. He was
nothing away from Andre
brilliant
Ward did
fighter.
everything he could do with what he had in front of
Absolutely.
him. So it definitely.
And
All right.
fun yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So we're gonna stay with Floyd. Let's stay with Floyd. And this is a question that I've seen asked before. And I've kind of gone pretty much at first I used to say one thing, but now I think I'm firm in the other direction. Uh I just want to ask if Sugar Ray Leonard, Floyd Mayweather, if you could see that fight, who would you have coming out on top?
When?
Both
In
in
their
their prime, both in their primes.
what weight?
147.
Hmm. It's a tough question. At 147,
Yes.
I might have to say Ray Leonard at 147.
And then I would agree.
Yeah.
I would
At
agree.
147, I would say Ray Leonard.
Yeah.
Um, because I don't think that, necessarily was Floyd's most, his best weight, right?
It's
But
his most lucrative weight, but it's not
right,
his best
right,
weight.
right. Okay. So we
Yep.
agree there.
Yep. Yeah,
But
it's definitely.
the weight class definitely determines that.
Yeah, but see, I feel like Sugar is a naturally bigger guy. So if him Sugar down fighting at super featherweight, which is what I think was Floyd's best weight class,
Mhm.
I think, yeah, that's just not going to work because that would, be stripping Sugar way too far down. But at 147, which is their common weight, and I believe, without actually doing the math, I believe the majority of Mayweather's career is might have taken place at 147. I think he might have more fights at 147 than any other weight class.
Yeah, we'd have to check.
If it's not that, it's close. It's
Right,
close.
right.
So I don't think we're doing him an injustice
No,
to compare him at 147.
no.
But yeah, I think I would have Leonard. Um, Leonard is one of the few guys that I think that, well, I know that Floyd would not outclass from a speed standpoint and an overall boxing acumen standpoint. It reflexes all that. But at the end of the day, Sugar could crack. I feel like he was a better puncher than Floyd.
He had
And
those combinations and those flurries, and he was a real well-rounded, special fighter.
and super tough too is another thing that people don't realize about Leonard. Leonard could take a shot. he could, especially at 147.
Yeah.
He could take a shot. So I definitely like Leonard in that fight. A lot of people won't say that. A lot of people don't say that. I've seen
Anybody chiming in on that one?
no, nobody's chiming in on that. But I do hear a lot of people, um, saying that could happen. That Mayweather would win. But I think that's just because people can't imagine Mayweather losing because we've never seen him lose professionally.
Right.
So I think that's kind of where that comes from. Now I got another one for you.
Okay.
This one, I want to ask you,
Mhm.
when you see this picture,
Yeah.
what does it make you think of? So this doesn't like a what do you think? I saw this today. This gentleman that you know and have
Mhm.
known for some decades
Yeah.
posted this image, and I want
Mm.
to see what it brings up with you. When you see that,
Mhm.
what's the first thing that pops into your head? Because far as I know, you may have been near.
I know that car.
Okay.
Yeah, you asked me the first thing that popped in my head?
Yes.
Seeing that car on a flatbed going down Oakland Park Boulevard and me wondering why is Mike's car on a flatbed going down Oakland Park Boulevard?
Yes, yes. That's what I was hoping to get. That's what I
That's
was
a
hoping.
true story.
That's what I was hoping to
That
get.
was, for me, that was 1996, 97, or late 96,
Okay.
and it's evening, and, driving, and I'm like, I look out the window, and I see Mike's yellow Lamborghini on a flatbed. I know it's his because I know the license plate, and I'm like, "What's it doing on a flatbed?" And so that's what makes me think of.
So why was it on the flatbed? What?
I don't know, it wasn't working. But I can tell you that he had that in the lead. That was during the lead up to the rematch with Holyfield.
Ah, okay, okay, okay. So this was after he'd gotten out.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. And where this looks like it was in Florida. Where was this?
I don't know. It could be Florida or Vegas, but it certainly has palm trees.
Yeah,
So
so I'm saying these palm
it would be accurate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I would think he wasn't driving the Lamborghini from state to state, was he?
Maybe that's why I was on the flatbed. Maybe it was being delivered. I just know that I don't know why it was on the flatbed. Now, the other thing you should know is that our office at that time was on Oakland Park Boulevard,
Okay,
Donovan
where
Productions,
in what state was that in?
Fort Lauderdale.
I see. I think this is in Florida.
Right, but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So it wouldn't be abnormal that maybe it was being delivered to the office, but, could be.
yeah,
That's what it makes me think of. You asked
yeah.
me.
That's exactly what I wanted. Because I had a feeling that there was some sort of story that could go with him in this car. So
I see it in my head right now on that flatbed.
yeah.
So, and I'm just and I, the license plate was the giveaway, so I knew.
Right, right, right. All right. So that was pretty hilarious, actually. So well, next to last thing. One of the,
So
I
wait,
love
who posted that picture?
Mike.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Right. He
I
posted
didn't
it today.
realize that.
Yeah. So next to last one. I love these. I love these. It's kind of like a guilty pleasure. But I love the one gotta
Well,
goes.
do you wanna hear something crazy?
I do. I love crazy things.
So, you kinda get my mind thinking back to that time.
Uh-huh.
Probably was Florida, and he had hired this guy Keith Clevens,
Okay.
who's a strength and conditioning, and like has a dance school in Vegas, but he was acting as Mike's strength and conditioning coach.
Okay.
We were training at like the Boca Athletic Club, like
Okay.
open to the public, like doing like weight training.
Right.
And then like I think he was, I don't know what we were doing on like the racquetball courts or whatever, but it was just, I remember finding it so odd that we're going to the Boca Athletic Club where he's doing his weight training.
Yeah.
Like like around these it's like people in Boca, it's like, hey,
Yeah.
look, it's Mike Tyson.
Yeah, and then the car goes around the
Just,
flatbed.
you know, just yeah, I'm sure I'll remember a lot more.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, so like I said, I love one gotta goes. I love
Okay.
them. And they're like a little bit of a guilty pleasure for
Man,
me.
I'm impressed today.
You are.
I'm impressed with your preparation. You just like stepped up this show like,
I'm trying. I'm
no,
trying.
it's awesome.
I'm trying. All right, I got one more for you. One has to go.
Mhm.
So you can only keep one of these. outstanding Mexican fighters
Mhm.
has to go. Which
In what
one?
what do you mean it has to go?
Meaning that one of these guys is not on the level of the other three.
Oh,
If you
man.
have to,
Alright,
if you have to,
I hate to say it because I like him, but Marquez.
yeah, that's kind of honestly, I I was leaning that way,
Is that Eric
but
all the way on the right?
that is
Yeah, it's Marquez.
it was for me. It's for me. It's Eric.
Nah. Eric was much more dominant in his time.
Yeah,
You know,
you know what? You might be right, but maybe the imprint of the knockout against Pacquiao is weighing too heavily for me.
there were some questions surrounding
Yeah, there was.
his preparation for that fight.
There was. He looked like the Hulk.
Rumors.
He looked like the Hulk.
But look, but on an overall body of work and overall
You know, you're right.
competitive matchups
You're
and
right.
dominance,
You're right. You're
I
right.
mean,
You're right.
they're all Hall of Famers.
You're right. You're right.
Okay.
You're 100% right.
But
It's
I mean,
market.
you can't mess with Oscar and Julio.
No.
Okay.
No.
Although I mean, technically Oscar's Mexican American,
Yeah,
but
but this doesn't say
I'm
it's got to be
joking.
managed, right?
Come on, stop. I'm doing a technicality here to keep Marquez in the mix, okay?
Right, right, right.
But it's Marquez. It doesn't mean that he's not a Hall of Famer and that we don't
No.
love him. But
Yeah.
you're giving me you're giving me Sophie's choice here. It's Marquez.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh, that's a nasty reference. Okay. That just punched me in the face.
But
But
that's what you're making me do here.
yeah, yeah, but no, I would agree. I would agree. You're right. On second thought, and I'm disrespecting Morales. To be totally honest, if this was a better one has to go, you take Marquez out and put Barrera there.
Then no one would go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I would have to say,
Well, I would take Oscar out, put
oh,
Barrera there, and Marquez would still have to go.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. I was gonna say Oscar's not going. People can say what they want to say about Oscar. Oscar was freaking amazing. He
No, no,
was, yeah,
I'm just saying if you wanted to
yeah.
keep it pure fighting for Mexico under the Mexican banner, Mexican, then you would say Barrera, Marquez, Chavez, Morales. But then we could add you know, this is your four. We're
A
going with
bunch
your
of
four.
people, but because there's
Marquez
far
would go.
clearly there's more than four. That if
There's
we were,
dozens.
yeah, it's literally dozens. So that's actually pretty cool. But yeah, so that I think we both agree there. Even though I had to come around.
Tough. It's tough.
Yeah, I had to come around. All right, last thing before we wrap up, I gotta get your thoughts on this.
Okay.
This is pretty hilarious.
Okay.
This inventor has made a boxing robot for training purposes. I would like to know. This is his name is Chris Tressiter. He's a structural designer based in Perth, Australia. He's developed this idea of training equipment that can fight back. The Puncher Pro is set up to continuously throw hooks and jabs at the fighter. Now they throw them at different, there's different speeds, so it can go in all these different ways.
I freaking love it.
Okay, yeah.
I
So
love it.
I like it too. I like it too. I'm not saying you can go and train on this and then you go challenge for the world title, but
No, but it's just like, if you're gonna hit it's kind of interesting.
I think it's interesting. And if
I
nothing
mean,
else,
you're stationary, right? So it's not
yes,
like, however, I'm sure it could be put to good use.
I
Hey,
think it
listen,
could.
we've seen some of the flashy bullshit mitt work that guys do.
And we've also seen Conor McGregor's
By the way, what was that? What was that? Yeah, what was that mitt work that was going on in Yard's dressing room prior to the fight? Did you see it?
it was ridiculous.
So this might not be such a bad contraption.
No, it's not. And especially since he doesn't spar either. So
That might
yeah.
change.
Yeah, I think that might change too. But that I thought that was pretty interesting. Like,
Maybe we're taking them at face value. Maybe that's just part of the whole spiel. Maybe they do spar.
maybe they do, but it didn't look like it.
Right. Well, It was okay. I mean, it wasn't a it
I
was
mean, I didn't say it didn't look like it from a skill standpoint. It didn't
right.
look like it from a wind standpoint. His stamina didn't look to be there. But so as
True.
far as with this contraption,
Yes.
the reason why I like it is
Yeah.
because I don't think it's something that you can necessarily get work out of for a professional fighter. But I do think for somebody doing boxing training
Mhm.
and who wants to get as close to training boxing without actually doing the stuff that nobody really wants to do unless you're a real boxer,
Right.
I think it'd be great for I mean, can you imagine the sweat that you could generate doing that?
Look, it's interesting, and like I said, with some of the mitt work we see some people doing, this can't be much worse.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I
The
mean
o
I mean,
the
because
only the only bad thing is you're stationary, but if it's meant to work on some defensive skills and counterpunching, why not?
or just to keep your head moving at
R
all times.
Probably can't make more than one, but why not?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't yeah, because I
You
can't
know,
imagine how
the
much it
only
would
the only
cost.
problem is it's $8,000, so no one
Yeah, I can't imagine how much it would cost to reproduce that on a, mass produce it as well. So, but yeah, I liked it, man. Ask me what I man. So I hit the bag. I hit the heavy bag
yeah,
like every what I 3 or 4 times a week.
yeah,
If I had that thing, I wouldn't hit the bag. I'd do that.
right.
I do that.
But the bag has a different purpose. And
It's a
there's
feeling of
no
hitting
and there's the resistance aspect
the
to it.
resistance, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Because it does. It cuts you up
yeah,
through here
you
if
could do
you're hitting
both.
it.
You
Yeah,
could do both.
yeah. You can do both, and I think you get a fantastic workout. Your arms might fall off the
Right.
first day,
But
but
still,
yeah, you get a great workout. But so yeah, that was pretty cool. That's all that I got for you today, and we have for you today. I
any more any
sincerely
any more comments or that's
I
it?
no, that's it.
Okay.
I gotta let you in on how this looks on the back end, because I know you can't see this end, Peter. When the comments come in, I get a little ding ding,
Mhm.
and ping ping ping. So
Mhm.
I always know when they've come through. But
Right.
I appreciate everybody who came through today,
Thank you.
watched, participated, in the whole nine, and I hope that they'll be back for another show. Also, we break these out into individual segments and also do some unique stuff as it happens throughout the week. But as usual, I appreciate everybody watching. What's going on, P? I know you want to give a shout out and a sign off.
Listen, I was gonna say you said unique, and I'm getting delirious, and I was gonna say unique Musique because
That's right.
that's who you are. So
That's who I
I
am.
really have nothing else to add.
That well,
Except thanks for listening, thanks for watching, thanks for joining us. Please subscribe.
absolutely.
Definitely subscribe. We're gonna have some excellent guests. Our channel's growing exponentially.
Yes, it is.
We're bringing a producer into the mix. We're gonna have some excellent guests. We have a busy September, October, November, December where we're gonna be on site at a lot of fights. So we're gonna get a lot of that behind the scenes, one-on-one interviews. So yeah, you're gonna see a lot of fun stuff here.
All right. Well, like I said, appreciate you watching as always. God bless and peace.